Retro Hangover is supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We would especially like to thank patrons Lyle McCarns, Tony G, It's a Me Ferrario, Stud Still Smash the Milkman, Lucas from Game Over Hell, Randall Quiggle, Raging Demon from Command List, Poppy the Masked Keaton, JC, Ozzy Garcia, Megan Caruso, Retro Overdrive, Dave Jackson from Tales from the Backlog, Soha, the Emperor, Storm Beagle, and Captain N from Retrotopia, Matt, aka Stormageddon, from Fun and Games and Reignite Podcasts, Van Fernal from Van Fernal's Retro Stream, Ryan, Keith Gasper from the Main Quest Podcast, Rick Firestone from Pixel Project Radio, Eric Guess from Unlockables, Ash Event, Mike the Ref from Backbreaker Gaming, Alan Bingham from Saxbit, Alt, Low5 Alex from Low5 Gaming, B Ross from Super Garbage Day, Oh Me, Sega Boy 7, Jared Breland, Riskel, Adam R, and Super Dave from the Anime Field Guide. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated.
Open your ears and crack some beers. You are listening to the most recent episode of Retro Hangover.
Retro and classic gamers, welcome to the podcast where we decide Doom delivers devil delights doing dangerous dangling. This is Retro Hangover. I'm your co-host Chris Copleen with special guest from My Life in Gaming, The Backloggery, and the DF Retro Super Show, Try4ce Marc Duddleson, and as always, your host, Shane. 64 Dicks of Hell Dragon Salter.
Is that like I was trying to do the quick maths in my head. Is that like, what is that like? You said 64.
Yes.
So that's like, let's see, 15. That's roughly like somewhere between 15 to 17 hell echidnas.
16.
I think 16. Yeah, 16. There you go. Okay.
16 knuckles.
Yep. There it is. 16 hell knuckles.
Full of emeralds.
We do be dangerously dangling. That is for sure.
I mean, look at Knuckles' hair. Yeah. His hair, though. His hair.
Well, I'm glad to be back on my own show.
Every time I'm on here, it always cracks me up that every time you do that, Discord just like drops out. You're just screaming.
Yes.
I never hear the whole thing.
It's been a long time, too, since anyone's mentioned it. Not here as a guest on the show. Usually we hear that all the time. As Shane says, I go to space. But we actually got a review. I think it was on, Apple Podcast or Spotify. I don't know. One of them. They gave us 1 star and said, stop screaming. My answer to that person is no. But thank you for the feedback.
No, I don't think I will.
Yeah, I appreciate feedback. Thank you for listening. So
that's the best you could ask for.
Exactly. I appreciate it. Welcome back to the show, Try. I know I've done some episodes with you for some side content that I hope to get out this year. There is that. I've also, last time I think I officially did an episode with you that's on the internet was for Final Fantasy V over on the Main Quest with Keith.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now
it was a joy to replay Final Fantasy V in preparation for that.
Mm-hmm. And at the time of the recording, the 4-Job Fiesta is coming right around the corner, too.
Ooh.
So topical there. So go check out that episode if you haven't. Main Quest. Kind of on a hiatus for the moment, maybe permanent, but
still, that episode is there for you all to listen to. And myself and Try are on it, so go check it out. And of course, hi, Shane. I did hear some commentary from you there after the intro. How are you?
Yes, you did. I'm doing all right. How are you? I am excited to be here for Hell Month.
Yes. So that is why we are covering Doom games. Today is Doom 64. Before we started recording, there was a question, is there a theme from this month? That was asked behind the scenes here. And yes, it is. It's called Hell Month. Why is it Hell Month? Well, because it's the first month of summer here in Florida, and temperatures make it hell. It's going to be hell. It's going to be very upsetting. It's going to be horrible down here. That's the only reason. And so we thought that when it's going to get hotter than hell in Florida, when that is coming over the horizon, what do? Talk about Doom, because Doom is all about killing demons in hell. So this should be fun. It's going to be enjoyable. And that's why I asked Try to come on, because I have heard he has a soft spot in his heart for Doom 64. So I am happy to have you here for this, Try.
Yeah, glad to be here. I wouldn't consider myself, a serious crazy expert on or anything, but I enjoy it. It's a good one. I love the N64. So
nice. But before we get into the game du jour proper, we are going to be doing what we are wont to do, and that is talk about what games have we been playing lately. And as tradition dictates, the guest gets to go first, and then myself and Shane will let everyone know what we have been playing lately as well. So Try, what games have you been playing lately?
Whew, let me tell y'all, on Monday, I finished after a month of streaming on Mondays for the Backloggery, Ultimate Ghouls and Ghosts.
Ooh.
Or excuse me,
Ooh.
Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins for the PSP. What a brutal game, as you would expect, right? But the silliest thing about it is, as this is, a comparatively modern Ghosts and Goblins, Ghouls and Ghosts, Makai Mura, whatever you want to call it, it has, things like saving and some additional sorts of gameplay features. And at first, we thought it was kind of doing something clever to eschew the need to play through the game twice, right? That's always the gimmick with Ghosts and Goblins. You have to just replay the whole gosh darn game. But this one has someone in our stream chat who had played it before kind of described it as light Metroidvania elements. We didn't really know what they were talking about. But you get these warp staves and you can go back to various levels. There's a few witches that need some ingredients to create some items for you. And you need to warp back and forth between the levels, even though they aren't strictly interconnected. It's still basically linear, like the classic games. So we were like, oh, okay, so, we have to do this. Then we get to the last level, and they're like, oh, you need 22 golden rings to get through this door. And we're like, oh, okay, so we use our warp staves and go find more rings in the levels we've already beaten. This is the replay that we have to do. So you bring 22 rings back, you fight Astaroth, as you do at the end of Ghosts and Goblins, and then they're like, oh, but you cannot truly defeat the evil with this other evil being and the void still being there. So yes, despite the fact that you end up playing each level multiple times in search of rings and other hidden goodies, they still send you back to the beginning of the level or the beginning of the whole game. You keep everything that you already have except for your warp staves. So you do have to play the whole game again and find all the rest of the rings. It is brutal. It is mean. It is unfair, unkind. I don't recommend anyone else go through this exercise, but I don't regret it.
Now, do you have to do this in one sit down, or are you expected to save progress?
No, you save progress.
Okay.
You're allowed 3 save slots. Yeah, you can save, and the warping around does help somewhat, but it's a pretty mean game. Luckily, the boss fights are all pretty easy. It's just getting through the levels is brutal and never really gets any easier. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but I'm glad I've done it. I'm glad I've done it, but don't do it unless you're, like a sicko like me.
I know some people now that I have to encourage to do that. They claim to love ghouls and ghosts, so now I have to give them a hard time and demand that they play it. This sounds delightfully brutal.
You will question whether you even like the series. It's like, why do we play these games again? I thought I liked these, but now I'm not so sure.
Speaking of people who love brutal games, Shane.
Oh, hi.
What have you been playing lately?
Well, nothing of the sort, as it turns out. Although I have a suspicion that will probably tick up a little bit now that I've got a little bit more free time for at least the next several weeks. So we'll see how that goes. But other than replaying this game again to make sure it's fresh in the old noggin before we talk about it today. Let's see, what have I been up to? I think for the most part, I've just been kind of like plinking away at some of the good old Android games. Okay, a little bit of Android drama because everybody loves that, right? So there was a game called Acecraft, which I think I talked about on the show at some point, probably several months back now. And it is basically a vertical shmup, but with an art style like Cuphead. So pretty cool. I guess it comes with the standard caveat that it is a free to play mobile game. Therefore, there are ads and microtransactions. So take that as you will. But the gameplay is pretty good. And despite the, free to play kind of scumminess, I do enjoy it. I had been playing it for a while and then it just disappeared just off the face of the Play Store completely and shut down. And I was like, what is going on? And it turns out that they ran into some sort of issue with Google, apparently, because they were doing this thing that a lot more mobile game companies are doing these days to try to sidestep the platforms taking a cut of their microtransactions and directing folks to their own websites and saying hey, if you buy, our currencies directly from us instead of through the app and therefore through, the platform, you'll get extra stuff, the more bang for your buck. And apparently Google did not like this. And they were just
Can't imagine why.
They're like, welp, no. And so they were offline for several months. And I thought maybe the game was just dead. But actually within the last, I want to say month or so, they finally resolved that kerfuffle and are back again. So I picked it back up. So I have been playing that again. It is a good little shmup. To be fair, the art style is doing a lot of heavy lifting as far as keeping me interested, because if it wasn't for that, it, for the most part would be just a pretty standard shooter. But in any event, I've been putting, time back into that. And then honestly, other than that, not a whole lot of anything. Ooh, I will mention though, that I was not aware that Spiral Knights, for all 8 of you that even know what the hell that is, has been back for a while. I guess technically it never went away, but it kind of sort of died for several years. And it seemed like it was just a dead game. And then I think ownership of it changed and it's been, revivified. And so I actually got myself back into kind of plinking around in there because it's a pretty fun little game. I won't go into a lot of the details, but it's kind of like a instance based MMO a la Guild Wars 1 kind of, but it's more arcadey. It's very sort of roguelite ish. So it's pretty neat. I checked Steam before it kind of went dormant. I had put almost 200 hours into the game. So played it quite a bit. And so I've kind of gotten back into that a little bit in my off time, do a few runs here and there. So that's about it, I think. Someday I might actually play the latest Diablo 4 expansion because I've heard it's actually good, but I have not had the ability to do that yet. So maybe
you'll get there.
Maybe forthcoming. Who knows?
So for myself, again, I've just been playing games for the show, trying to get as far ahead as possible. I just wrapped up Final Fantasy II Super Nintendo, so that's 4. Not going over why, if you need to know why at this point. Why? But yes, Final Fantasy II for the Super Nintendo, aka 4. I just wrapped that up on stream. After many times playing the intro a lot, I was just like, you know what? I'm playing this for the show. Let's just barrel through it. My thoughts will be shared there. Anyone who knows anything about me knows what I feel about Final Fantasy IV already. So there's not going to be any spoilers for that episode when you get there. I thought I'd be playing Final Fantasy V right now for the 4-job Fiesta, but I jumped the gun a little bit. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, Chris, where's the charity drive that you're planning on doing? Why haven't you been streaming Final Fantasy V? Well, the day I thought it was supposed to start, apparently it starts 18 days after that. So still pay attention to the channel if you want to watch me stream Final Fantasy V or the 4-job Fiesta, and I'll have all the links for the charity and whatever for that as we get closer to that. Still have yet to get that site up because I don't exactly know how these things work, but I think I can figure it out. I think we'll be good there. But the biggest surprise that I've been playing lately is Gex for the Saturn, the first Gex. And I was not expecting a lot going in to play it, and I was actually quite pleasantly surprised. It's a lot better than I was expecting it to be. Still has some issues, of course, as many platformers do. No game is perfect, but way better than impressions were. I always kind of sat back and thought it was a little overrated and just one of those corny 2D platformers that got pressed just because it was the only 2D platformer on the 3DO that anyone knew about. So I thought it just kind of got inflated by its reputation. No. It's really solid. And it makes me want to try the 3DO version out someday because it does look like it has some features on the 3DO, like save features that would be really nice to have. Whereas
the 3DO version is 30 FPS.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Saturn version, to be honest. I completely forgot it's on Saturn, but I've played a little bit of it on PlayStation 1, and it's got some quirky controls, but
yes,
you can get used to it.
Yes, it was running fine for me until I got to an auto scroller level. And then it was like fighting with the controls, and I died way more times than I was anticipating. But I mean, that was only 1 or 2 levels. Yeah, it does ramp up towards the end, but the controls get to be your enemy, as Try was indicating. But I'll get more into that for IO Saturnalia. Aside from that, am I playing anything just independently? No, not really. Just making it through the daily grind, so to speak, and playing when I have an opportunity to, and then making content about it, because apparently that is what I do. So, I guess we're ready to get into the episode du jour, aren't we, Shane?
Oh no, I guess so.
Oh yes,
it's that time.
I guess so. And because you're Mr. Doom, and I will not take any thunder away from you talking about one of your favorite game series of all times. So I've heard. So Shane, why don't you give us a brief history of Doom 64?
All right, let's talk Doom again. Yes, you know that this show is obsessed. I mean, we're dedicating 2 full episodes to the franchise just this month. Back in the early mid-90s, Doom was not just a game, it was a cultural phenomenon, the hottest property in gaming. And naturally, everyone, including the humble console peasant, wanted a piece of the action. The problem? Doom is fundamentally a PC first-person shooter, a genre that, at the time, was still stumbling its way onto the console market. When these games did arrive, they were almost universally gimped PC ports, and Doom was absolutely no exception. When the high watermark for this legendary game is arguably the ports on the Atari Jaguar and the Sega 32X, you know the console delivery system had some, shall we say, issues. Luckily, a new generation of hardware was about to arrive, promising to fix all those miserable compromises. The PS1 version of Doom actually showed tremendous promise. We shall never speak of the Saturn release, though, so naturally, all eyes turned to the N64. It made sense. The N64 was the undisputed king of North America, and Doom was the definitive North American cultural product of its era. id Software, being id Software, punted the development over to Midway Studios San Diego. Midway Games would publish it. Development started in 1994 with an ambitious goal: create a definitive Doom experience, complete with every enemy and extra content from the franchise up to that point. The N64's restrictive cartridge memory allotment had some other ideas. The ambition, scrapped. They also dumped the multiplayer for a few reasons. Midway, with a straight face, blamed Nintendo for insufficient resources, but also admitted that 4-player split screen just wasn't fun when you couldn't see where your opponents were. Fascinating logic. Oh, and also, it might not have even been a Doom game to begin with, originally titled The Absolution before the marketing department stepped in and slapped Doom 64 branding on it. Mercifully, The Absolution, which to be fair is a pretty kick-ass name, survived as the name of the final level. The game was initially planned as a Nintendo 64 launch title, but id Software hated the level designs so much that it was delayed. After some frantic tweaking, Doom 64 finally showed up in North America on April 4th, 1997, with the PAL version lagging behind on December 2nd. Reviews were generally pretty positive, clocking in at a respectable 73% on game rankings. Critics were entertainingly divided. Some argued it wasn't different enough from all the other Doom ports to justify its existence, while others praised it for exactly the same reasons. As for sales, it didn't exactly set the Martian moons ablaze, but 500,000 units sold worldwide is no slouch either. We'll get my hot take on what fans thought at that time in just a minute. But here's the kicker. Over the years, Doom 64 has gone from being the red-headed stepchild of the franchise to an actual legitimate hidden gem. People coming back to it now often declare it was seriously underappreciated, much like Castlevania 64. This renewed fan love is likely why it was finally re-released and remastered in 2020 on everything from PC and Switch to PS4 and Xbox One, finding a new audience and finally a little bit more appreciation. And that is your brief history of Doom 64.
All right, thank you, Shane.
I really want your explainers to just be dumped into a Kojima game sometime. You know, it just seems like one of those like random things that Kojima would have in a game. It's just like, here's all these explainers on these random video games that have inspired me and this and that or whatever. There's just all this like content that you could just listen to in the game for some reason. I don't know. It felt like a Kojima-esque explainer.
There we go. Kojima, give us a call.
Hire Shane. I think Shane makes it's the voice. It's the rich, robust voice.
I could just see that voice coming at me over a codec call, you know.
Doom 64.
Doom.
That's pretty good.
Doom never changes. Wait, wrong franchise.
Wow. Yes.
But also that is an MGS4. Anyway, never mind.
Oh, I think, yeah, it is, isn't it? It's true. Okay. Getting to the history here. Anything either of you want to elaborate in terms of the history? And Shane, we are going to get your take on the personal experiences with your feelings about the game at that moment. We've heard it before, but we're going to reiterate it.
Yeah.
But anything stick out for the history on for either of you? I guess not. Okay, we're going to move forward.
Well, all right then.
Get to personal experiences. I'll start this off. I have not much of anything. I own it on my Switch. That's the first time I owned it. I think it was because it was on sale for $2 or something. And I played it for a little bit. I knew it was around. I think I've talked about this before. I've never really been a big Doom fan. I'm not the biggest Doom fan. I think they're fine for what they are. But that wasn't really my jam at the time. So Doom 64 is never in the cards for me. So I was coming to this with fresh eyes. So that made it interesting for myself. I don't know where to go here. I think Shane's going to have the banger of the childhood experience, even though we've heard it before. So
I mean, you're hyping this up. I have not heard it. So
okay. But I will let you go next. Then Try. What's your personal experience with Doom 64?
Well, at the time I wasn't super or really at all into first person shooters. I had some experience with Wolfenstein 3D. I saw Doom here and there a bit, but I had sort of what definitely would have been an atypical sort of impression of games like this for, a tween going into teen boy at the time, where I saw violent video games as being just people were drawn to those games because of the violence, not for the gameplay. And I think that is true, regardless of whether or not they were good games. But it turned out that I discovered many years later, I was actually the one being very superficial, because Doom is incredible. It's an incredibly good game. And so my trajectory of getting into first person shooters was, kind of a little bit of a slower thing. And I still don't consider it like one of my genres necessarily. But a friend of mine did rent this back in the day, so I remember seeing it a little bit. At the time, though, I wouldn't have known enough about Doom to know that this is actually a completely different game. It's different levels. It's not the same game at all, which is the main thing that makes it so interesting. And, years later, I did finally play through Doom. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. But then I think it was honestly really when the Night Dive Studios version of Doom 64 came out, and I played all the way through that version, where I was like, it really clicked with me. Like, you know what? I think these like early, boomer shooters, as sometimes they're called these days, I think this is kind of my jam. I really like, this early id Software stuff, your Dooms, your Quakes, etc. And Night Dive in the modern era has been such a great guide almost through that era. I've said before that I almost look at Night Dive Studios as like a friend recommending games to me that, I didn't play back in the day because I didn't have a good computer and stuff like that. I mentioned before recording that I know my computer could have played Doom because I did play Chex Quest.
Yes.
But yeah, that was kind of my route up to this point. I've since, gotten a little experience with Doom 64 on original hardware as well. But I think Night Dive Studios just does such a tremendous job with all of their control settings and gyros aiming support. And, it's hard to recommend anything but the Night Dive versions for basically anything they've touched. But I would say that was like very much kind of a point playing Doom 64 from Night Dive that really helped me realize, like, yeah, this era of first person shooters is something I really, really enjoy.
Interesting. Shane, how about yourself? Now we'll get to the big story here.
Oh man, I
can't wait. Built up. Man, it's gonna fall flat. And it's going to be like a big fucking balloon.
Like when I went to the theater to see the Doom movie. Anyway.
I watched that last year. It was a thing.
Yeah. Semper Fi, motherfucker.
Well, yeah.
Anyway. All right. So my experience with Doom 64. If you have not heard me tell this, then get comfy. So, all right. I have been involved with the Doom series basically from the beginning. When my family got our first computer, yes, that's right, children. At one point, there was such a thing as the family computer.
Yes, there was.
Yeah, we got a compact Presario.
Oh no! Oh, I feel so bad for you.
Yep. Well,
That's what I had too.
It was pretty cool at the time.
Mine wasn't.
Well,
Mine was.
Well, listen, this thing was the thing that I first played Diablo 1, Descent, and Doom 2 on. So, I mean, objectively, was it a good computer? Probably not. But, I'm kind of fond of it for, I guess, those reasons. And so, like, I immediately just fell in love with Doom, just the gameplay. It was like nothing I had ever played before, because up until that point, I was strictly like a Nintendo kid, NES. I mean, with the exception of the Sega Master System. And so, like, I had never seen anything like this ever. And as soon as I got my hands on the shareware copy and played the crap out of that first episode until I finally actually got the full version. And as they say, the rest is history. So single player first person shooters, and I'm being very explicit about that because I really don't like multiplayer shooters. So I need to make that distinction, are one of my favorite like genres. And this is pretty much why. So this all leads up to all of these things kind of converging and coalescing into what I thought was going to be just a pinnacle moment when I asked for a Nintendo 64 for Christmas, and alongside it, I asked for Doom 64. I got both. It was a pretty baller Christmas until I put Doom 64 into the fucking console and started playing it. Coming to this game from, and this is going to bleed a little into some of my thoughts about it later, but like coming to this game, having played the absolute shit out of the OGs, was such a fucking shock, because I was just, I viscerally hated everything that this game was doing. Like from the jump, I was like, why the fuck is it so dark? I can't see shit. Where is my kick-ass metal music? Why do all of these enemies look like fucking claymation douchebags? What the fuck is all of this? And like, I played it for maybe an hour, I think. And this was the one and only time in my entire childhood where I had the audacity, the chutzpah, the cojones to go up to my parents on Christmas Day and be petulant about the fact that I was like, I don't like this game. I want to return it. And I insisted that we go to the store on Christmas Day to return it because I did not want it in my fucking house. Okay. And as one might expect, my parents were like, I'm sorry, come again? So, and also on top of that, for the record, my grandmother was actually the one that spent the money to buy the N64 the game for me. And she was there because she was there with us every Christmas. So they were like, not only are you being incredibly ungrateful, you are doing this for something that your grandmother, the sweetest woman you have ever known, bought for you. Are you out of your goddamn mind? So I kept the game, as it turns out.
Imagine that.
Yeah, go figure, right? It was a rough rest of Christmas Day after that, let me tell you. But
and that was the only game you had for it.
No, thankfully, no, it wasn't. It's not quite a 3-console Christmas, but I did get, I think, 1 or 2 other cartridges for it too. So it wasn't the only one, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
But that basically from that day forward, I have just had a just default blanket hatred for this game for that reason.
Wow.
And I never finished it. I never played more than maybe 2 levels of it ever. Up until actually the Night Dive remaster. And I was like, you know what? It's been 20 something years. I guess, maybe I should give this a try. I love all the other Doom games. So this seems like a weird outlier. Maybe child me was wrong, So then I played it that way, and turns out it's not the absolute shitstorm that I thought it was, but I do still have a number of nitpicks. But yeah, so that's my personal experience with Doom 64.
I can't wait to see how this unfolds. This is going to be a huge circle. Sounds like both of you had this very judgmental view and have come into things with different perspectives, whereas I have no perspective.
Great.
All right. So next we're going to get into the story plot of Doom, and I'm going to read from the manual about the backstory here. I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time on the actual topic, so I'm not afraid of the fact that it's long in the manual. We might get long in the topic. Who knows? We have turned Dragon Wang into an hour and a half, so we never know.
Wow.
I mean, you could just do the story so far page. That's probably enough.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Here's the story for Doom as the manual describes it, which does start out with the story so far. The past. Your fatigue was enormous. The price for encountering pure evil. Hell was a place no mortal was meant to experience. Stupid military doctors. Their tests and treatments were of little help. In the end, what did it matter? It was all classified and sealed. The nightmares continued. Demons. So many demons. Relentless. Pouring through. Far away. The planetary policy was clear. An absolute quarantine was guaranteed by apocalyptic levels of radiation. The empty, dark corridors stand motionless, abandoned. The installations sealed. The present. A long-forgotten relay satellite barely executing. Decayed by years of bombarding neutrons, activates and sends its final message to Earth. The satellite's message was horrific. From the planetary void, there came energy signatures unlike anything sampled before. The classified archives are opened. The military episodes codenamed Doom were not actually completed. A single entity with vast rejuvenation powers, masked by the extreme radiation levels, escaped detection. In its crippled state, it systematically altered decaying dead carnage back into corrupted living tissue. The mutations are devastating. The demons have returned even stronger and more vicious than before. As the only experienced survivor of the Doom episode, your commission is reactivated. Your assignment is clear. Merciless extermination. There's the story.
I mean, those last 2 words was all you needed.
Pretty much, yeah.
I am Doom guy. I have shotgun. I blow up demons. The end.
Succinctly and better put by Try. There you have it. That's my takeaway as well. Shane, what's your takeaway from the plot of Doom 64?
Man, I don't even what a contrivance to justify a game. It's like at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter. It's a boomer shooter. Nobody cares. I mean, I actually like the background story of Doom, but I'm weird, so it's whatever. But this is, they're just we don't really want to come up with anything necessarily new, so we're just going to say that this is canonically a continuation of the story after Doom 2, but everything got resurrected because there was a big mother demon out there with massive amounts of radiation and the ability to regenerate tissue and we just didn't know because it was hidden from the scanners, and that's our reason for why you're retreading the same ground, except it's not, and it looks different, but it is kind of.
I mean, I'm not really a Doom lore master at all, but like, is this considered to follow Doom 2? Like in my head, this just like
no, it
replaces Doom, the original Doom.
No, okay. This canonically, it is following the events of Doom 2 because it's like you as the Marine. Yeah, basically, yeah.
Is it on Mars? Does it take place on Mars or elsewhere then?
You go back to the space station.
You go back to Mars. Okay, okay, you're going back. Okay.
But that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't make sense though. Cause like it okay. Like none of it has to make sense. I just feel like I need to say that.
Like, why?
But at the same time, if you're going to be like, oh, you're going back again because you fought through the space station and hell, and then they got to Earth, and then you fought through kind of really shitty, boring city levels. And then you were like, it's done. All right. Except it's not, because then they resurrected all the shit you killed somehow. And so now you have to go back. Except it doesn't look anything like what it looked like when you were there the first time.
Well, maybe it's a different facility.
Dr. Wiley comes back all the time with different looking stuff, but it's
makes
still
no
Dr.
sense,
Wiley.
Chris. Makes no sense.
All I gotta say is I'm disappointed that there's no like resolution on like what happened to Doom Guy's pet rabbit. Like, wasn't that a thing in Doom 2? Like, it's dead.
Yeah, it's dead.
Is that the character from Animal Crossing?
We gotta bring it back.
Yes.
We gotta revive Doom Guy's pet rabbit.
So it can become the holy rabbit in Monty Python.
Oh,
it's a time-traveling rabbit.
Ooh.
Oh, all right.
We can make it canon.
It's a shared universe.
Yeah, and that includes wizardry.
Oh, all right. I like where this is going now.
We can connect Doom and wizardry and Monty Python.
6 degrees of Doom Guy.
Yes. While we're here, Shane, because I don't have anything to add to the plot. There's just no plot in this game. This is just all background bullshit, right? What's canon? What's the order? Because there's Doom, Doom 2, then it becomes Ultimate Doom, Final Doom, Doom 64, and Doom 3, then Doom Eternal, then Dark Souls Doom.
Sorry, what now?
The one in the like Middle Ages Doom.
The Dark Ages.
Yes.
I was like, what? So, okay. Well, first of all, you can just throw out all of the shit with like Ultimate and Final Doom, because all that's just adding extra levels. That's all that is. It's not like some sort of story continuation. It's just literally like, hey man, you want to play some more Doom, but you've played through all of the episodes 1,000 times? Well, here's some new, fresh levels. And a lot of those were community created levels using the provided level editor. That was the whole reason. Part of the reason that Doom was so popular was the fact that, you could build your own levels and share them with people.
Yeah.
So a lot of that was literally just a repack of like id just being like, all right, we found like 40, 50 best like community made levels, and we just packaged them all up and sold them on a disc. Like, that's all it is. As far as like the actual mainline games go, I think, and I'm not 100% on this, I think that Doom 3 technically is supposed to be a retelling of Doom 1.
Oh.
So, yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Does make sense. Okay. Anything else we want to add to the plot? Sweet. All right, now we're going to be getting into the gameplay. It's a first-person shooter. I'll describe it. It's a first-person shooter, as we have described. And you go around and shoot demons with guns, big guns. Collect key cards, make it to the exit. That's pretty much the long and the short. Find secrets, maybe. Get armor, health, all that stuff. Very basic, rudimentary. Your health doesn't recharge. Yeah, there's that. So I don't know why I'm like underplaying this. I'm just describing what kind of game it is. I'm going to get out of here before I get yelled at. Try, what did you think about the the gameplay for Doom 64?
Well, I mean, something that's always jumped out at me about classic Doom that it always baffles me why, you know, kind of the new ways that people play Doom, like GZ Doom or the Source Doom, you can, you know, kind of freely look around and aim. And to me, a big part of the appeal of Doom is that it's horizontal aiming. And, you know, it just takes care of the vertical element of, you know, where the bullets go. And to me, that is so key to, you know, the pace and the flow of the game, and, you know, makes it so that it's not just strictly a game about, you know, whoa, I look at how good at aiming and shooting I am. You know, it's also about exploration and survival and stuff like that. So there's a different sort of pace and beat to the game, and I think that's a key part of it. So, you know, by the time this game came out, that was probably already a little bit out of style. That just sort of that simple only turn on the, you know, the x-axis, and you know, no looking up and down. But still, I think that's great and is part of the appeal for me personally. But yeah, I mean, it's just a fast, smooth game, and it performs better than most N64 games on, if you're playing it on the original hardware. It's, you know, it's 30 FPS, and I believe is that most of the time. So it's actually a pretty solid performer, and not that far off the mark of what the PC version did originally, which, if I'm not mistaken, is 35 FPS, you know, meant to run on a 70 hertz monitor.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's 35, or thereabouts. So yeah, 30 FPS on N64, pretty good. But the controls are, the default control scheme is a little weird, I think, but it can take a lot of fiddling to get the controls to be the way you would like it. And ultimately, with the limited number of buttons on the N64 controller, there's a good chance you're going to have to do without mapping certain things. Like maybe you'll, you know, to get the control scheme you want, you might not really have a good spot to put, you know, previous weapon onto, and you might only be able to cycle forward through the weapon. Like that's how I kind of found more comfortable control scheme for myself. But yeah, it is a little odd on original hardware in a lot of ways, just with the way the controller works. But, you know, at the time, this was still something that was being figured out. If you play it on the modern version, obviously you can map so many functions to, you know, whatever key or controller button you want, and it plays just like any modern shooter, and has gyro controls if you're into that, like I am. Or actually, wait, is there gyro? I mean, it's Doom, so it doesn't actually really need gyro controls. So I could be misremembering how that is implemented in that this particular case. Either way, though, I think the big key to this game is it's a different game. It is not Doom on the Nintendo 64. It is its own unique game that was not ported to anything else until the Night Dive remaster. The levels are their own thing. This is kind of a lost Doom game in a sense, you know, for people who maybe ignored it because they thought it was just a port to N64, and they're like, well, I don't need that. I can play Doom on my PC. You know, and I think the new level designs, I think they hold up. I think they're great. And there's, you know, maybe get more into this in the graphics and music and sound, but, you know, I think there's a lot of atmosphere that holds up really well, and maybe does something a little bit different from the original Doom games, just in terms of just the general vibe, which, yeah, as was the case with Shane, not what he was looking for at the time.
No, yeah.
But I appreciate it as its own thing. I mean, you know, I can't deny that I freaking love that, you know, Doom level 1 music. And this game does not have a soundtrack like that. But I am getting too far ahead of ourselves, so I'll stop talking now.
I want to stick with something that you brought up. And I'm going to say this and get this out of the way here in this portion. I was not able to beat this game. I did not beat Doom 64, and I did play it on original hardware. That's the only way I played it. And something that you touched on is one of the biggest reasons why, and it's controls. So there are ways that you can configure it to kind of make it feel more like a modern shooter. If you map strafe to the C buttons, for example, left and right C. And I know you're a defender of the N64 controller. I am a defender of the N64 controller. I do not hate the controller. I think it feels fine. I think the hate is overblown, but this is not the controller to play this game. Because even when you configure it to something that makes more sense, you're still sacrificing something. You're always going to be sacrificing something in order to make it feel more natural, whether it comes to toggling a map or moving out weapons or whatever the case might be. And it's always a little awkward. And I'm fortunate enough that I have big enough hands that I could, and I preferred using the analog stick, but I found the preferred way for me to play is to use the D-pad to move around and then use L and R to strafe, which are the defaults. And luckily my hand is big enough that my middle finger could be on the Z button, which is fire. That's not going to work for most people. I know that's going to be extremely uncomfortable, but that's what I found is the most comfortable way that made sense. Because if you're not strafing in Doom, you're not playing Doom. That's just how it is. So you got to find a way to do that and do it well. Because even playing on the easy difficulty, you're going to get wrecked by some of these enemies. And one of the things I found about this game in Doom writ large is kind of memorizing where the enemies are. Doom has, especially the early Dooms, and even the later Dooms, from what I understand, for the very brief time I've played of the more modern ones, is very arcadey. It's very Twitch kind of gameplay. As Try was even alluding to earlier, you're not looking up and down. It's not about perfecting your aim. It's about putting something in the general vicinity of your fire and just blowing it to shit. That's Doom. That's what makes it appealing. And I did enjoy that for the first few levels. I got a thrill out of it. And I agree with you. It plays extremely smooth. And it just, when it's feeling good, it's probably the best feeling first person shooter on the N64. In terms of how it's aged over time. Because I mean, at the time, like people would probably call me crazy because you had Turok and you had GoldenEye. And over time, I think that we found that this game is probably control-wise, in terms of its smoothness, has aged a little bit better. And I'll probably talk more about that in the graphical presentation. I think that has a lot to do with it. But one of the things that does hold me back from loving Doom, and it really does, is just hunting down those stupid key cards. I hate key cards. I never want to see another fucking key card in my entire life. I don't like them. I've never liked them. I'll make it all the way through the level and it'll be like, you can't make it through this door because you didn't find the yellow key card. I'm like, where's the yellow key card? And you find out you have to like fart in some jar in a corner of one room and then run over to the other side to pick it up. And then you can proceed through the level. I don't like that. And the constant need to do that through the levels, even to the point where like, I just wanted to experience the rest of the game. I found some cheat codes and like, okay, I just want to see it. It got to be a slog because there was so much of that. And that's unfortunate for me because like I said, when it's firing on all cylinders, when you're just wreaking havoc and you're encountering enemies around a corner and you start to learn level layouts, that's a blast. But the levels at some point start to be their own worst enemy. And it's not because of the darkness. I didn't find that to be an issue. And I did play this on original hardware. Maybe the ROM was altered. That's always a possibility because I did not play a physical copy. I did play it through an EverDrive. But I didn't find the darkness to really be an issue and get in my way unless that darkness was intentional. And in that case, it was, implicitly intentional. It wasn't some sort of accident or mistake. So those are my thoughts on the gameplay. Oh yeah, and no jumping doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me. I like it.
No. Yeah,
it doesn't bother me.
The
at all.
only weird thing is like you sometimes have to kind of have a bit of momentum
Yes.
to get over a gap or something like that. But
Sure.
I'll counter with what you said with just I don't mind the key cards. I actively enjoy the exploration aspect of.
Mhm.
So but I can absolutely understand why that would be something that drags it down. But that would be the same case. You would have the same opinion of Doom 1 and 2 as 64 in that regard.
Sure.
Or do you think those levels differ in their design?
Oh, I hated Doom 2's designs.
Okay.
Especially when you got to the cities and they just became too big and too sprawling. And that was a major criticism we leveled against it. I think Doom is best. You can get the key cards, but I think Doom is best when the levels are more condensed and they just have a natural flow to things. When they start cleverly hiding the key cards and make you do really weird things in order to get them, that's when I start having my issues. That's when I start to take umbrance with Doom's level designs. But like sometimes like it just makes sense. I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. Because I don't think of Doom as a thinking man games. Not to say that finding key cards really makes it a thinking man's game, but it makes it more of a thinking man's game than I want it to. If that makes sense.
I understand where you're coming from because I agree that those two sides of Doom feel like they are appealing to different audiences.
Yes.
It all comes together for me and obviously millions of others as well. But I absolutely see where you're coming from. Like sometimes you just want to shoot a bunch of stuff and Doom doesn't always let you do that.
Yes. Shane.
Oh man. All right. That's a lot of ground to cover. All right. Let's start with the fact that I don't mind the N64 controller. It is something that I grew up with. Like I was there when it was, released. It was new and novel and weird and we got accustomed to it and it's fine. However, in no uncertain terms, I must express that this game should not have been on the fucking Nintendo 64 at all. And that point is, for me, further driven home precisely by the Night Dive remaster, because when you play this game the way God intended with a keyboard and a mouse, it is 1,000 times more enjoyable. That's just objective fact, and I will not take any criticism. It just is. And so playing this game with an N64 controller feels bad. I feel like I'm playing with one arm tied behind my back at all times, because I feel like I am actively fighting the control scheme as much as I am everything else on the screen. And it's serviceable enough, but the difference for me is you could take this and it's like, why am I not leveling this level of criticism at something like GoldenEye, for example? The reason is the pacing. Doom has always been a very fast-paced shooter. They do scale that back somewhat here, but I don't think enough, which is a weird thing to say for Doom, because that's part of its whole appeal is that it's just crazy, fast, mindless blasting. But you have to accommodate for the hardware that you're working with and the interface, i.e. the controller. And can you play this on the easiest difficulty and it's an all right time? Yeah, that's fine. And I did that actually with an N64 controller on original hardware. I played through and I finished this game on the easiest difficulty, because anything beyond that is just an exercise in futility as far as I'm concerned. It is so horrendously difficult to play because of the control scheme. For comparison's sake, and anybody who has, jumped on our streams in the past or whatever knows this, that like, I'm pretty all right at Doom. Like I can play through the entirety of the first episode of Doom in a no death run on like the hardest difficulty. All right. Like I'm okay at Doom. And so going and then playing the Night Dive version of this, I played it on the hardest difficulty, which is called Watch Me Die in this one. And I didn't get to finish it because I didn't have time, frankly, but I was playing literally up until today without any real major issues. Actually, funny thing about that, there is a balancing problem, in my opinion, in this game with the hardest difficulty, because everything is a fucking bullet sponge, and they throw like their idea of difficulty in this is just, okay, what if we filled every room with bullshit? And so what ends up happening is you quite literally run out of ammunition. There's not enough ammo pickups in a level to kill everything they put in the level. And so it's not an issue until you get about halfway-ish through the game, which is about how far I got. And you do get to a point where they are just relentlessly throwing like the red versions of the Hell Knights, which take forever to kill unless you're just like clocking them with rockets, just all the time. Everything is Hell Knights and like the weird version of the cacodemons they have. And they just fill rooms with like the hardest enemies constantly. And it's not even that it's that challenging with the mouse and keyboard, I have to say specifically. It's that you just don't have enough ammo to kill them. Like I actually just stopped my playthrough because I got to a point where I just had a chainsaw and I was like, well, I have a chainsaw and like 3 Hell Knights staring me down. So I guess I'm done, which is weird. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. Like, and I don't know if it's like they just didn't think anybody was going to play it on that difficulty. So they're just like, balancing. What is that even? But I can't imagine playing that difficulty on original hardware, because like it takes a lot of very quick timing, very precise movement, a ton of strafing, just like you would in OG Doom. You can't do it that way on an N64 controller. You just can't, unless you're a crazy person who dedicates an unreasonable amount of time to getting good at that, which I'm sure there are those.
Someone's done it.
Yeah, for
absolutely.
Sure. I know somebody's done it, but like, I would not expect anybody to play this game on the Nintendo 64 on anything harder than like the easiest difficulty in order to get through the whole thing. Because it sucks to play with that controller. It really does. And it's just such a glaring comparison when you go and play it on a PC that the game itself is actually really good. It's good. I think playing it on the I Own Doom level, which is a funny difficulty name, by the way, is like I think that's the sweet spot. Like if you're someone who has played Doom before and you're playing the Night Dive version, I think that second to highest difficulty is the sweet spot for getting the challenge you want out of this game, but like not just running out of bullets. Anyway, that's about that version. For the OG version specifically, I don't know, man. Like I feel like this game, it was a disservice to leave it stranded on the N64 for as long as it was, because this is just not the type of game that should have been like on that system with that controller. Like I feel like the entire experience is just constantly hamstrung because of it.
I have to push back, Shane. Go ahead, Try.
Well, I was just going to say, performance-wise, the game does very well. So
sure.
in terms of the N64 hardware, I don't think that was a problem.
No.
The controller, you're right. The control scheme, the default control scheme isn't great. And, they give you tremendous ability to remap everything. I mean, do you want to make move right the B button? Sure. Do you want to make move down the L button? Sure. Like they let you do literally anything except I think they could, it would probably be easier to make something more workable if they had let you change what the analog stick does. because the analog stick can only move forward and turn, forward, backward, and turn. And, of course, these days we expect, what our left hand is holding to strafe, move forward and strafe. Back then, especially because of GoldenEye's default control scheme, I think, on consoles, a lot of us were very much used to move forward and turn. But yeah, if you went for a control scheme that was like maybe closer to what GoldenEye does, it could probably work. But I do think if they let you modify how the analog stick behaves, that would make a big difference. And then you could use, say, the C buttons for turning, and then up and down C could be different functions like, map or whatever you needed it to be. I think that little tweak could make it a lot more feasible to make a good control scheme with the N64 controller. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're all
I don't know, man,
defenders of the N64 controller,
yes.
But I do agree it is a very difficult game for as simple of a game as Doom is.
Yes.
It is weirdly difficult.
But
like it's simpler than first-person shooters.
It's because of the controller.
Yes. Yeah, it's simpler than other first-person shooters that are on the N64 and are great, and yet somehow it really is kind of hard to wrap your head around why this simpler game is so much harder to make work on that controller. But it absolutely is. You all are not wrong. I think you can get used to it. And I think there is a good game underneath it, as the Night Dive remaster does show. But yeah, that the controller, or at least the way the game uses the controller, is not the best.
Well, the default button mapping is hot trash. But like, even if you remap it, which I did, and I think it sounds like we're all in agreement that like strafe on the C buttons is like the superior way to go, which I think it is. But like, even with that, like, that's serviceable, but it's just not, it's not going to get you where you need to be. And it's because I will maintain that I do think it is because of the pacing and the game's expectations regarding your reaction time to things, because Doom is such a quick, like, tight, responsive experience that they were essentially replicating that on the N64, because it does use the original, Doom engine for this game. So it is effectively the same thing, more or less. And so you're playing by the same rules there, but the gameplay was not, in my opinion, I don't think it was tuned properly to accommodate for the fact that you are playing with the controller and you are never going to be as snappy and responsive as you would be on a PC. And I just want to touch real quick, because I know Chris wanted to say something, but like the analog stick thing also bothers me, because it is, for those of us in the know, it's called look spring, which is you can look around with it, but it also makes you move if you push the stick far enough. That shit sucks. I hate look spring. Nothing should use that ever. And it makes it feel even more awkward, because especially if you're coming to this from playing Doom or other FPSs, because your expectation is that those two things are like completely separate, in that you have one thing that functions for you to look around and you have one thing that functions for you to move. And look spring combines both in like the most awkward ass way. And even with the combination of the analog stick and the C buttons for strafing, it never feels good, because you have that look spring function that's happening every time you're turning to look, that you are inevitably going to force yourself to move in the direction you're looking in, even if it's a little bit, which totally throws off your movement and your momentum. So it's kind of a little bit of a mess. That's just my take on it, but it is what it is.
This is what I was going to say, Shane, when I said I need to push back, because I do need to push back. I don't like your criticism of saying that the balancing sucks, and then you run to the hardest difficulty in the game for a game that's known for being relatively difficult. Yes, the hardest difficulty is going to be hard. It's going.
No, that's not what I
probably
said.
going. I'm just saying, Shane. You're
no, but
saying,
that's not
hey,
what I
look,
said, though. What I said
player,
was
the hardest difficulty sucks. Yes,
it's not
that's
that
why
it
we
sucks.
don't play it.
It's fine. The difficulty itself is fine. I was very clear about that.
Okay.
The reason it sucks is because they quite literally do not give you enough ammunition to finish a fucking level. That's a problem. That is an actual problem. Like when they're throwing Hell Knights at you constantly that are just bullet sponges, and then you run out of ammunition and get down to just a chainsaw or your fists.
Gotta get better chainsaw.
That's basically game over. And I don't think that the back half of this game, from what I could see, was adjusted properly to either give you more pickups, or they should have made some of those difficult enemies that they just kind of said, fuck it, let's throw 6 of them in a room.
I'm just saying it's really hard. It's really hard for me to hear criticisms of like the extreme sides of difficulty settings from the developers. Like, I can understand like there being criticism of those modes per se, but I would say looking at those and criticizing those and saying it, applying it to the entirety of the game, I think that's a little unfair. That's my perspective here.
I wasn't applying it to the entirety of the game. I was saying, no.
I'm saying you should get good at the chainsaw, Shane.
No, what I am saying is that the hardest difficulty of the game was clearly not balanced properly, because the gameplay itself, again, with the very strong caveat that I was playing this on a PC with a mouse and keyboard, because in no way would I ever attempt to play this difficulty with an N64 controller, but with a mouse and keyboard, it was fine. The actual difficulty was fine. I think it was lazy because they just were like, difficult equals throw a bunch of the hardest enemies in a room together. Like it didn't seem like there was a ton of thought put into it necessarily. My gripe with it is that it was like blatantly not balanced properly, because I should never have so many bullet sponge enemies that I use up every ammo drop in a level and still can't finish the level.
Now, the Night Dive version, if I'm remembering correctly, just like, you know, any of their other games or like most PC games, I believe you can save anywhere and, you know, essentially save scum the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you can do that on N64.
No. That's actually something I didn't like at all, is that if you die in the N60, it's just like if you die in normal Doom.
You come back with the pistol and that's it.
You come back with a pistol and that's it. But you
that's
the only time
sentence.
the only time you can save is when you get through a level. So you can't save like in the middle of a level or anything like that, like you can in pretty much every PC version of every first-person shooter ever.
I mean, I always play Doom on, you know, Bring It On, which is the default, right? Whatever the default one is called. You know, I'm no hardcore Doom player. I am a Doom enjoyer. So I don't know, you know, people who really do want to play that highest difficulty level. I don't know if they frown upon save scumming through a level, or, you know, if you die, you know, you're holding yourself to finishing it only with the pistol and the supplies that the level gives you. But, you know, when I was playing through the Night Dive version, I made saves constantly to ensure that I didn't end up in a bad situation, and, you know, ultimately never did put myself in a situation where I had to restart a level with just the pistol, because that does sound horrible. That sounds horrible.
Awful.
No, at that point, you should just reload the last save, because like starting in the middle of the game with just a pistol is basically a death sentence. Like you shouldn't even bother.
I mean, would you say that is uniquely unviable to Doom 64 and is more viable in Doom 1 or Doom 2?
No,
like,
I wouldn't do that in the originals either.
You wouldn't do that either.
No, hell no.
Just making sure that it's not just because I'm, you know, a Doom wuss.
I'm a big time Doom wuss, so I feel exactly what you're saying.
Okay, so there is one thing that I want to deviate from the controller for a second just to talk about, because I think it is actually pretty cool.
Okay.
One of the things that this game does do, I'm putting it in gameplay because it is more because it's more about the level design than the presentation of it necessarily. But with the original Doom engine, they did some pretty cool things that even, the id guys didn't really do in the first two games, in terms of sort of like morphing the level structure, like in real time. Like there are some things like one of the early levels, you see this structure with these four big cylinders, and you go into a room nearby and you hit a switch, and then you can look out a window and watch it. And these cylinders just slam into the ground and deform the ground more every time it slams down until it opens up a passageway.
Yeah. That's cool. That was cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. And it's not something that was done a lot in the first two.
Yeah, well, original Doom, if I'm not mistaken, is like quote unquote fake 3D, isn't it? It's all
yes.
like, scaling and perspective tricks. I assume Doom 64 is built with, triangles like any other N64 game. So
I think it's fake 3D as well. I might be wrong.
As far as I understand it, this is running on the same engine. So
because that was Quake's claim to fame, and I think that was what 90. Is that 96 that Quake came out? So it may have been, but the Quake was the first major. It wasn't the first like first person shooter that was 3D. There's like some Saturn game that was actual full 3D that came out before Quake, but I mean, no one gave a shit about it. I think it was called Gen War. Gen War was a full 3D first person shooter, but no one remembers Gen War. Everyone remembers Quake. And Quake was the first like fully 3D first person shooter from what I remember. That was its, or the people knew about, people cared about. So I don't know. It's possible that Doom 64 was running with real polygons, but
Doom
it probably
64
not.
came out in what, 97?
97. So, and it wasn't done by id. It was done by Midway.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows?
I mean, part of the reason that we could go and further verify, but part of the reason that I think I'm pretty sure about it is that there was supposed to be a sequel to Doom 64, and they were tentatively calling it Doom Absolution, since they didn't actually use that name in the first one. But it got canceled, partially because of like shitty studio politics, but also because the id Tech engine that this was running on was like aging a lot. And so at that point, id had redirected the Midway team that was gonna work on the sequel to porting Quake to the N64 instead. So
speaking about how the game looks.
How dare you?
He was trying so hard to get that segue in while we could.
Yes. Let's talk about this game's graphical presentation. And I'll start this off by saying I love the way this game looks. I played on original hardware. Like I said, I played on my CRT TV on original hardware. Now it's S-Video, so who knows if that matters or not. But I love the way it looks. I think everything just looks smooth. It moves smoothly. I think the sprites are relatively detailed. Now you can say the frames of animation from the enemies are a little goofy because there's not a lot of them. Fair criticism, everything like that. But this game runs like butter. And I think because it didn't really lean into the 3D polygonal look of the time, which now people are getting nostalgic about and are appreciating it for that nostalgic based reason. But I think this is beyond that. I think there's some really good sprite work. I think it looks very, very good considering with what they were doing, aside from, enemy animation sprites can, like I already said, look bad. But I love the way this game looks. I think it looks sharp. I think it looks clean. I think it's smooth. I think this is a fantastic looking game on the N64. Shane, what did you think?
I have a mixed bag of opinions about how this game looks. It runs great, 100%. but that's also mostly because it's the id engine and Carmack's a fucking genius. So
Yes.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's Midway's like win on this one. They were already working with a damn fine engine to begin with. I'd actually be more impressed if they fucked it up. But so it runs great. Yes. The levels themselves, I like the diversity of the presentation. I think that works really well.
Good point.
I think it branches out a little bit more than even their original Dooms, which I think is a boon. So I love that. I have to say that even with 20 years of, time in between and going back and playing now, I still fucking hate the sprites in this game. Like 100%. And are they higher fidelity? Technically, yes, they are than the originals. I just think they look like ass. I hate them so much. Like they don't, the original sprites were so well done in Doom 1 and 2 as just legit sprite work that this, and I think the reason is A, it's a bias because I like absolutely adore Doom. And so all of those sprites are like, why would you fuck with those? They're perfect. I understand that. The other part of it is they, rather than going the like polygonal route, they stuck with sprites, but what they did was they created clay versions of all of the enemies and then created the sprites from those clay models. And so that's why some of them, especially like the Pinky Demon, is one that stands out to me a lot. Looks like a weird claymation enemy coming at you all the time because it kind of is. And I don't love it. Like they took the designs of all of the enemies.
So it is actually claymation and not like pre-rendered CG. I honestly don't know.
Yeah. So instead of using the, more like traditional pixel art that the originals did, the art team quite literally sculpted physical clay models of all the monsters and then digitized them.
It's digitized photos. I mean, see, I'm hearing that and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
So, from a technical perspective,
cool.
yes,
I
it's
didn't
cool.
realize actually.
But they digitized them into 3D polygonal meshes on like Silicon Graphics workstations and then pre-rendered them into 2D sprites. So like, is that cool from a technical perspective? Yeah, it is. That's really cool. Do I think that they look superior to the traditional sprite work of the originals? Abso-fucking-lutely not. I think they're like, hey mom, I want to get Doom while we're out. And mom says, no, son, we have Doom at home. This is like Dollar General Doom to me. Like, I can't.
I agree that it's a different look and a different style. It doesn't have to look cooler than the original. I think, I don't know. I think they look fine.
Then why fuck with it? If it's not going to look cooler than the original, then why even mess with it?
But same reason that sometimes Yoshi looks like he was drawn out of crayons and sometimes he's made out of yarn.
I agree. Try is right.
Oh, okay.
I somehow brought Yoshi into a Doom episode.
I love it.
I think we can make Yoshi work. Yoshi does have a first-person shooter.
You're right. He does.
We can make Yoshi's Doom.
Too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, this game, I think, has a very strong opening visually with that, it's like, kind of zooming out from the Doom logo with the enemies on it and stuff. I think that looks pretty neat. But you mentioned this earlier, Chris. The game is, Shane mentioned, I think, or maybe both of you. I can't remember who mentioned it, but it's very dark. It's very, very dark. Because you said, Chris, you didn't have problems on your CRT. This game is especially problematic if you are, playing it on modern display. It does have an in-game brightness slider, but even that is not quite enough on its own if you're, upscaling the game. Something that's kind of interesting on the analog 3D, I can't claim to know like what the technical math behind this is or what it's based on. If it's based on anything accurate or not, but it by default, the Analog 3D has a gamma setting called Tube, and the other gamma option is just called Modern, I think. Tube definitely has brighter midtones, and that has the game that I have played that makes the most impact on is Doom 64, because if you combine the maximum brightness in game setting with that Tube gamma, the game becomes much more visible, and I would assume probably very similar to the experience you had, Chris, playing it on your CRT.
Yes.
So it is possible, but yeah, the game is, for some configurations, shockingly dark. Like it's surprising that they made it as dark as they did, given that people could be playing this on all kinds of different qualities of sets, and some older sets may have less capability of, or cheaper sets might have less capability of adjusting the picture. So I'm sure there were a lot of people who had trouble seeing the game, but even by the time you get to the second level, that level is intentionally, like, parts of it are basically pitch black. That's like part of the level design. You are intended to not see very much there. And they do play a lot with that. I mean, just on the atmosphere side of things, it is, I feel, my off the top of my head knowledge of like all the classic Doom levels is not great, but I do feel that this game probably has a lot more sort of dark atmosphere than, both visually and orally, than the previous Doom games. But again, my memory of exactly what those classic levels looked like, because it's been much longer ago that I played Doom 1, Doom 2. But I feel this game does have kind of a dark appearance. They play with that a lot. But yeah, you do have to have it calibrated well to see it.
Well, given that I am the person who has played the original Doom within the past, like, month, I can tell you that it is 100% dark as shit. The original games are not anywhere near this visually dark. And that's part of the issue. I know what they're going for, because, like, from an atmospheric perspective, it fits, it works, but I have to crank the brightness setting up all the way every time I play this game for it to even be, like, manageable. And here's how I know that they knew, and also that Night Dive knows. 2 reasons. One, if you go into the manual for Doom 64 and you go to the options section of the manual, under display, they talk about brightness, and it says Doom 64 is a dark, intense game, but if you can't handle the darkness, then use this to adjust the brightness.
Oh, no.
Okay, fuck you, Midway. First of all, you're trying to, like, cover this up with, like, well, I mean, like, if you're not cool enough, like, okay, get bent, dude. Like, your game is too dark. So they knew. And also, the Night Dive version of the game specifically has 2 brightness sliders that the original does not have. The OG just has 1. This one has 2. For game brightness and then environmental brightness specifically. So, like, we all know. We all know. And also, fun fact, by the way, I think that, like, second level that we're talking about, where it's like pitch dark with, like, the red arrows.
It's so dark, yeah.
It's not only that it's so dark, it is literally black texture. And I know this because they give you the goggle power up in that level that is supposed to get rid of all of the darkness in the level. It's like, it's as if brightness is on ultra max. It's the same as in the original game. That's what the goggles do. And that works for every area of that level, except that part specifically, because it's not a lighting issue. The textures of the walls are literally just pitch black.
Yeah, I mean, that part is almost like one of those haunted houses where it's pitch black and the only thing you can see is just like a light in the distance that you're supposed to vaguely walk towards.
And so you can imagine Child Shane
I want to go to that house
on Christmas Day playing through the first level of this game and being like, I don't know. I don't know if I like this. I can't see shit on this CRT. And like, it's not the same. It doesn't feel the same. And then I get to level 2 and they hit you with, hey, asshole, what if this was a fucking haunted house and this entire section is pitch black and you just got to bumble around the dark like an asshole? You can imagine my reaction at that point.
I thought it was fine.
Meh.
I think that level design is clever, but it would, I could definitely see how you had a very negative experience with that level. I can totally understand.
Yeah, I mean,
but
like, in fairness,
I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah. In fairness, I think it's fine now. It works. It's fine. Mm-hmm. It was a very specific point in time that really just sent me over the edge, but it's fine.
I can understand it. I can understand it.
Well, Shane sounds very, very upset about this, but I want to know what he thinks how the game sounds. So Shane, what do you think about how the game's audio? How do you think it holds up?
Well, this is gonna go right into my thoughts on the sound, but one last trailing piece on the presentation bit is that they had to cut 4 of the monsters from Doom because there wasn't enough space on the cartridge to work with. I just want to point that out. And so you get a bunch of reskins, which is great, which leads me to the sound. So let's see. I actually don't hate the soundtrack of this game. I think that the ambiance is actually done really well. I think if this was not called Doom, if it was just something, literally anything else, I would not have had the same feelings about it that I did, obviously. So for what they're going for here, because the general just tone and approach to this is a lot more, well, dark, for lack of a different term, the soundscape that they are creating, I think, is appropriate. I think it works really well, and it does, in a way, kind of lead us to where Doom 3 ultimately ends up as well. And so, no, I actually think it's good. I don't, however, love the sound design. And the primary reason for that, I'm assuming, is a hardware limitation. The sound effects from the original Doom are very, very identifiable. Each enemy has their own very clear sound. You can, like, to the point where if you've played Doom enough, you can identify a monster just by the noise it makes. Okay. And I feel like that's important. You cannot do that with this game because they recycle the same sound effects for several of the monsters. And I think that's also part of what made me go, what the fuck is this garbage initially? Because the Marines, the shotgunner dudes, should not sound the same as the imps. Like, full stop. They should not. They have very distinct sound profiles. And the fact that they sound identical in this game is a travesty, in my opinion. And so you get this thing where it's just like this very generic monster sound, because now you can't assign a specific sound to a specific enemy anymore. So it just kind of becomes background noise. And I don't love that. So there you go.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the classic Doom monster sounds like off the top of my head well enough to have picked up on that myself. And I can understand the criticism there because it, especially with like kind of dark and scary games, there can be a tendency to kind of do some fakery. And, I'm playing Alan Wake 2 right now. And it definitely does some things with sound that's like, this is not actually indicative of a threat in my environment. And so I can definitely understand being annoyed with, how that sound design doesn't give you the gameplay cues that you're looking for. But I think it's got a cool atmosphere, like not just talking about enemy sounds, but just all the music and just the environmental ambiance kind of blends together into one thing for me. So I'm not really sure how to distinguish them or if they should even be distinguished. But there is just like a spooky, mysterious vibe to the overall sound that I do really enjoy in this. But that said, I do really prefer overall, I guess I prefer like the really, hard rockin' music of the original Doom, because that is great. But I think it is okay that they went for something different with this one. It makes it just get, I think it's a big part of what helps this have a separate identity from the other games.
Yes. So the music was done by Aubrey Hodges, and his claim to fame before this game, I think that the big one was Doom on the PlayStation 1. And the biggest reason for that is because the PlayStation 1 version of Doom made this diversion, the same diversion from the classic Doom formula of the heavy metal tunes. And that's where
I've never played the PlayStation version.
Except they did that with a port, though, right?
I think it was a port. I'm pretty sure it's a port.
I'm pretty sure Doom on PlayStation is a port of Doom 1. It's not
1 and
game,
2 and some of Final Doom or Ultimate Doom or some combo of that.
So that's, to me, that's even more heinous, because now you're just replacing the original tracks with something else.
I mean, I would say that is disappointing for PlayStation Doom. But this being, clearly a distinctive game of its own, I think it's interesting that they went in a different direction.
Well, my point with making with pointing out why it went that way is because when the PlayStation Doom came out, the soundtrack by critics and people who played it, they said one of the standouts was the new direction with the soundtrack. And even though it was actually pretty lauded, and I think it's been lauded up into this day, because like they said it was more atmospheric, but they said it was really, really well crafted. And I happened to agree with a lot of that sentiment for Doom 64. I think that the soundtrack is very well crafted. I think that it is very well designed, and I think it does fit the environments. I think, to both of your points, is that it's not Doom at this point in time. It's not a Doom soundtrack, which complicates things, because they would adapt a lot of these ideas moving forward into Doom 3. So I think when you really think about what they move forward with in terms of the franchise up until Doom 2016 and how Doom saw themselves in their identity, and maybe you could say that this is because Romero left id, and that caused some issues, and maybe some of the staff preferred the direction that the PlayStation direction went. You could argue that the PlayStation version of Doom really set the tone for the future of id Software's releases and their titles and what they were moving forward with Doom in the future. That was really the game that changed the direction for them, and actually a lot of first-person shooters of that era. They became more atmospheric. They became more dark and gloomy, as opposed to like badassery. You see a little bit of that shift. Maybe the PlayStation version, which is an odd version of all first-person shooters. Now, my knowledge of first-person shooters on PC is like nothing. So like I hear first-person shooters being brought up on PC all the time. Like, I never heard of that. And they're like, oh yeah, everyone played it. I'm like, I didn't. I never even heard of that game. So
likewise,
I'm in that camp. But I think that, yeah, it's a really well-designed soundtrack. It's really atmospheric. But if someone said, yeah, but it's not Doom, I want the hard rock tunes of Doom, I think they're incredibly valid in saying that. You can't take that away at all. Absolutely. As the Shane's points about every single demon having their own sound profile, like, that is nice. It would be nice if that happened. I don't have that attachment, much like Try. And so I'm more looking towards the actual sound design itself. And that wasn't something that really bothered me or got in the way of the audio enjoyment of this game. So it's a thing, I guess. And if you know the difference between the two and you enjoyed it in the original versions, I could see you being perturbed. But I am not one of those people. So I was not perturbed. I did not care. I was paying more attention to the sounds that the guns were making, and I think they were fine. Plasma rifle for the win all the time, because the plasma rifle is always the best. And that sounded, nice. It sounded nice. I like the minigun when it fires off rounds, and it sounds like guns. These all sound like guns. They all sound like 32 and 64-bit and 16-bit guns. Nothing wrong with that. And I think they're all well designed there too. So overall, I give the sound design, maybe not. It's not an A+. I don't know. Didn't wear headphones, so I don't know about the spatial design, which is definitely something I'll be talking about in the next Doom episode that we cover, which will be Doom 3. That's going to be fun to talk about there. But I overall think the sound design as a whole is very, very good. I think it's, I hesitate to say top notch, but it is of high quality. It is of high quality. And so I think overall for the presentation, both with the graphics, the visual and audio presentation for Doom 64, I found very pleasant. I think that is the thing that is carrying the most water for me for Doom 64. I really thought that was the standout. So that is it for that. And that is it for our commentary. And now we're going to turn over to our patrons momentarily before we get to our final thoughts in our patron pontification section. What is patron pontifications? If this is your first time here, well, it's where we let our patrons contribute their thoughts to our episode of the week, and then we read them here. If you want to contribute, go ahead and join our Patreon, and you can get in for as little as $1 a month. Join our Discord, which is free, by the way. You can join the Discord for free. But if you want to contribute with the Patreon access, you go to Patron Pontifications and provide thoughts there. You can also go to Patreon while I post the game there, and you can provide thoughts. I didn't post Doom 64 for whatever reason. I failed. You're welcome, maybe, or I'm sorry, depending on your viewpoint. I'll just put both out there. You can make your own decision. But our first comment is going to be from Matt, aka Stormageddon, from the Fun and Games and Reignite podcasts. And Matt says, hands down, the best version of the classic Doom formula. I replayed this a few years back to guest on Remember 64, and it absolutely still holds up. The music rips. The stages are creative and interesting. The enemies are varied and brutal. My second favorite Doom game next to Doom 2016. Love it. Thank you, Matt.
That is a bold take.
Uh-huh.
All right. Next up, we have Soha, who says, I played it in the remaster release for PC, and it has great atmosphere and it does some nice things with the Doom engine, but it certainly aims a lot more for sort of horror atmosphere and gameplay than what you would expect from classic Doom. And I suppose it's just not really my vibe. The maps can be visually stunning with how they try to recreate decrepit castles and other such architectural structures, but I didn't personally think they were all that fun to play. Other than that, it's a solid game, but I still prefer playing Plutonia. Thank you, Soha.
What's Plutonia?
I think that's like a fan-made thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that might be one of those first-person shooter games I've never heard of. I was just talking about. Right, next is Lucas from Game Over Hell as well. And Lucas says, the game has some nostalgic value for me. From the time I rented it at Blockbuster, played for a weekend, couldn't see anything, kept dying in the third level, then never rented it again. Overall, I like the graphics of the levels and the atmosphere, but the demons look kinda crap. They look more like they're made of clay than the originals. It's almost laughable. Maybe that was intentional since it was on the N64, which was a console for babies, like me. I like it more nowadays because it's still classic Doom, and classic Doom is awesome. But I think I still like the first two Doom games more. And the first Doom will always be the most nostalgic for me, as one of the first few DOS games I played. Thank you, Lucas.
All right. Next up, we have PM Shram, who tells us, this game controls like hot ass. Succinct and to the point.
What kind of hot ass? All right.
Atmospheric hot
Atmospheric hot ass. Is that like a swamp? Like a swamp at night? Oh.
Florida.
Oof.
Yeah. Florida in June. All right. Next is Lethco from the Afterglow podcast, where I just recorded an episode with them about Lunar 2. Go check that out. It was a fun time. And Lethco says, it's a damn good mod. They got the name totally wrong, though. It sounds like it's just a port of the original Doom for the N64, maybe with updated graphics, but it is its own game. Honestly, something like Doom 2.5. But it's also better played in its more recently released versions on anything that has dual analog. You'll get a much better gameplay experience that way than using the Nintendo's triple-handed Wankersaurus Rex 64 controller. We're defenders here, Lethco, but thank you for the comment.
Actually, that reminded me of something I wanted to say about the controls too. You know what could have worked with this? And I think, I don't remember specifics, but I think some games did this. What if you plugged in two N64 controllers and played it that way as if it were a dual analog?
GoldenEye
that could work.
Yeah. GoldenEye offers the option, but I've never played it extensively in that control scheme. I feel like you would still struggle to have comfortable access to very many buttons in that way. Like if you're holding the stick on both controllers, you basically got Z and Z and start.
Yeah, it wouldn't be very good.
I mean, you just need to shoot.
Yeah, but the thing is, you don't really need like dual analog, because as we established, Doom is not about like looking up and down, and it's not a game that particularly needs or benefits from the N64's very granular analog stick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree.
That is true.
That's why I like playing with the D-pad.
Yeah, I can absolutely understand where you're coming from on that.
Mm-hmm. All right, next it's time for our thoughts on whether or not we think this game holds up today. As once again, tradition as we are wont to do, myself and Shane will go first, and then we will give our guest the final word on whether or not this game is worth playing today. I'll go first because I think Shane should go after me. The Doom is his baby franchise next to Diablo. Yeah, all these games involving hell. You really were an edgelord kid.
I was.
But yeah, my thoughts here are, I think this is a very good game. Doom 64 is a very well-crafted and put together video game. If you play the remaster on modern consoles, I think that the N64 version has some problems, mainly from the controls, that are going to keep a lot of people from wanting to touch it. I think all those problems are valid. So if you're talking about it in a very original way, and I think this is my hang up, and we discussed this during gameplay, I don't like the key card collection-a-thon. That's not something I'm totally into. But there are some levels that don't do that, and that's when it shines, and I think it sings. But a lot of people like that formula, and so I can't ignore that and sit here and just pout because I'm not someone who likes it. I realize what it's trying to do. But even that being said, like if I'm talking about the original Doom 64 on its native hardware, it's really hard to say that it holds up today just because it doesn't translate well to the controller. Apparently, if you don't have the right setup, you won't be able to see anything. It's just really hard to say yes to. So the answer here is no, but that's not saying that Doom 64 is a bad game. You can find it anywhere for less than half of a cup of coffee, because coffee is expensive these days, and you can probably find this for $2. So if you can pick it up for that, and you're a fan of classic first-person shooters, definitely find it on something more modern hardware, on the Night Dive remaster or remake or whatever you want to call it, and have a go at it. I think it's an incredibly well-playing, smooth experience that is just in line for fans of the classic Doom formula. But like I said, doesn't appeal to me. But for fans of Doom, this is definitely something that you should go check out on later revisions. Shane, what do you think?
Honestly, for the most part, I think I'm just going to agree with just about everything you said, frankly. The game itself is good. It is genuinely a fun game, especially if you like these kind of, boomer shooter style games. It's good. I think one of our patrons put it best when they said that it's just like it's a really good fan game or something like that, something along those lines, because it essentially kind of is. It's, for what it's worth, there are a lot of very extensive fan projects out there that are just total conversions of Doom or use the id Tech 1 engine to do amazing things that are free and you can play on a PC. So, I mean, there's that. But Doom 3 as it is, and what it does with the engine, it is a fun game. I had a lot of fun playing it.
Doom 3?
It basically is Doom 3.
Freudian slip? Yep.
Yeah, a little bit. Doom 64 is a good game. It is. I unironically enjoyed playing it on my PC. And that is the big caveat there. 100%. I don't think I could recommend the original nowadays strictly because of the control scheme. It's almost, to me, it's almost unfortunate in a way, because it's a really well-made, fun shooter beholden to a platform that is not built to work with it very well. And it's sad. And so that's why I'm really glad that, Night Dive took a stab at this one and made it more widely available on the correct platform. And so I'm going to say, if you want to experience just the game itself, that is absolutely the way to do it. I would not recommend anybody go and play the original on the N64 hardware unless you just are really curious about how it played with that controller. Then knock yourself out. It's not like the worst experience in the world, it's doable, but as I said before, you probably are not going to play it past the absolute easiest difficulty, not because you're bad at shooters, but just because it's not tuned in a way that would allow you to feasibly play a game on a higher difficulty level like that with the control scheme that it's asking you to use.
Try. You have the final word here. What do you think?
Man, you all are making me want to play deeper into the original N64 version just in defiance. I will find a way to make this controller play this game much better. I will craft the perfect control scheme and I will like it. But no, I mean, I do think this game holds up. On original hardware, TBD. I do think, visually and performance-wise on the original hardware, I think it's a standout game for the system just because it does have a different look and vibe to the other more quote-unquote advanced 3D games on the system. It's got a cool flavor to it, I think. But I agree. Playing the modern version, I play it on the Switch, is definitely the way to go. Just because you have access to so many more, easy access to so many more buttons than on an N64 controller, it does suit this game better. And, obviously the frame rate's going to be a lot higher. And, if you're, a keyboard and mouse person, obviously that would be great for PC players. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say other than, hey, it's a unique Doom game. Don't miss out. You like Doom? Well, here's some Doom that maybe you ain't played.
That's a good way to put it. Well said, Try. Well said. Thank you for providing that final word, and thank you for being on the show with us today. It's always a joy to have you, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
No problem.
Well, that's the episode. That's Doom 64. You heard it here. What are your thoughts? Make sure to comment wherever you can find our stuff. Shane will be giving the details about our socials here in a moment. But before we get to where you can find us, because you already found us, how about we learn where we can find more of Try here? So Try, where can people find you where you want them to find you?
Yeah, well, I usually don't want people to find me, so I'm not really on social media. But I am from the YouTube channel My Life in Gaming. We really need to get back to making videos a lot more frequently. It's been a slower year for us, but we've got ideas, and we stream every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel, and we've actually been quite consistent with Twitch streams lately. That we're kind of trying to make something of that. I'm kind of focused largely on working on my indie game backlog. I buy so many indie games that look so interesting, and then I don't make the time to play them. And Corey's been working through series that have been big blind spots for him, like Pokemon and Kingdom Hearts and stuff. He just finished Kingdom Hearts 3. Somehow he played the whole series in less than half a year. Absolutely crazy. And now he's going to try Fire Emblem. We'll see where it goes.
Uh-oh.
Also, one of the founding members of backloggery.com, and stream with the crew there every Monday night at 7 Eastern, working on our backlog usually. And I think this is the first time I've been on your show where I can also say that I'm on the DF Retro Super Show over on Digital Foundry, which we release every other week. Talk about some relevant retro topics and what we've been playing and things that have caught our eye, in addition to a main discussion topic, suspiciously similar format to a certain show that I may or may not be on right now.
Hey.
And yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Awesome. Yeah, and go check out the DF Retro Super Show. Did I say that right? I can't. My S
DF Retro Super Show.
DF Retro Super Show. My S is just kind of slurred there. That's never a good thing. I hate getting old. But high quality, very well produced. Definitely go check it out. It's a great time, great fun show. You'll enjoy, if you are liking this, you will definitely like that. You may not listen to us again, so maybe don't listen to that. Just avoid it, because we want you to stay here. But yeah, it's a great show. You've been doing some fantastic things. So hats off to
thank you.
Yourself, John, and Corey. You're doing some great work over there.
Thank you.
All right, Shane, I guess it's our turn. What do we have?
Oh, I don't know, man. What do we got out here? I guess we got some stuff and maybe a little bit of things if people are interested in that. We pile all our junk in one place though, so it's like easy for you to find. It's like storage wars, you know? Like you find an auction, it's all yours, and you don't know what you're gonna get because, man, there's a whole lot of shit in there. And you're going to sift through all of it, maybe find some gold. Who knows? But that's a weird analogy. Anyway, we have a link tree.
We're going to sift through all of it, okay? This is our mandate.
You're like a prospector in the ye olden times. You're just going to sift through all of it. And it's at our link tree, which is linktr.ee/retro hangover, where you can find this here show that you are listening to right now, which seems redundant, but I don't know, maybe you'll forget how to find it later, and you know where it is now. And also our Patreon, which is public and open and free to join, and we suggest that you do that because we have a fantastic, lively community in there, and we would love to have you. And we've also got a Patreon and a merch store should you wish to support the show in that fashion. And with Patreon, you do get access to even more stuff that we do. So there is that as well. And let's see, what do we got? We are on Twitch, I think, like oddly more often than we were before, because now that we've like removed ourselves from the strict Sunday night schedule, Chris just kind of randomly shows up.
I do.
So you got that going for you. You never know when, he's going to just pop up playing something. So, subscribe to that so you get the notifications so you know when he decides to inflict himself upon you.
Inflict.
Usually the stream happens concurrently, which means you can also catch it on our YouTube channel if you'd like to do it that way as well. So lots of things, all the things. There you go. That's our stuff. Chris, Would you like to add anything else?
Yes. Speaking of the Twitch stream, as I pointed out at the beginning of the episode, I will be taking part in the Final Fantasy V 4-Job Fiesta here soon. And that is going to be in conjunction with the charity drive that the show is doing. Historically, we've just used the patron donations from the month, and we still might do that. I need to talk with Shane about that offline at some point. So, hi, Shane. But the reality is that we're going to be doing a charity drive soon for the Children's Center for the Visually Impaired out of Kansas City, Missouri, as we have every year in honor of our late community member, Riku. And I have pledged that whatever we raise, I will match the first $500 of my own personal money. So go check out those streams if you are so inclined. It will be part of a charity drive. I will post everything everywhere. I love playing this in front of all of you when I have the opportunity to. So hang out, have a good time, or, don't, but it's happening. So at least, that's going on, whatever that means. But yeah. Pay attention to our Twitch, pay attention to our YouTube, because some 4-Job Fiesting will be happening soon. See you there.
I literally have just now followed your Twitch.
Thank you. It was Fun and Games Pod there for a minute. Nothing against Fun and Games Pod, but I was waiting for a new name to be the latest follower, so I appreciate that on our little banner. So it's been great.
All right. Well, then I suppose, with all of that having been said, until the next Doom episode,
play with your, I can't really find them because it's so damn dark, joysticks.
Shane here with a quick message. The one rule Chris and I have always gone by regarding advertisements is this. It has to be something we use and can personally vouch for. If you know me, you know I love coffee, and Bones Coffee Company has been my go-to for home brewing for quite some time now. Their small batch beans come in an impressive variety of flavors like Mint Invaders from Chocolate Space, or Electric Unicorn, which I swear tastes exactly like Fruity Pebbles. And the best part? No added sugar or calories involved, just natural flavors infused right into the beans themselves. Build your own sample pack of 5 4-ounce bags to find out which flavors speak to you, or jump in head first with full 12-ounce bags. They've even got K-Cups. Step up your homebrew game with Bones Coffee by visiting bit.ly/RHPBones. That's bit.ly/RHPBONES.